Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, our guest is Stuart Leo. Stuart is the founder and CEO of Waymaker.io, an intelligent business management platform that helps leaders build a better business in 30 days. Stuart is a global thinker in strategy, systems, and leadership development. As the founder of Waymaker.io, he has led the creation of Waymaker's Leadership Curve, a revolutionary way of building clarity, alignment, and remarkable results for any organization. So without further delay, sit back, plug your earphones in, and let's jump right into this conversation with Stuart. Welcome, Stuart.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Now, could you take maybe 1 or 2 minutes just to kind of share with us a little bit about your journey? Even though I did read a very short piece on you, it's good when we ask our guests to express in their own words how they got to where they are today.
The journey is much like many other startup founders, but I love business. I love working with people. I love serving others in business. That's I guess why we all do what we do. And for a very long time, I worked in corporate life and jumped out of corporate life to get out and do my own thing, as you always are inspired to do. And then for about 10 years, I ran a consulting company working in strategy and brand and sales tech and martech, and obviously customer experience was a huge component of that. And then along the way, we started seeing and observing problems that our clients would have that we realized could be best solved with some software as opposed to just some advisory services. And so we ended up pivoting, and which is always a fun journey, and developing a platform we call Waymaker.io, which at the end of the day is there to help you build a better business. And we help people get unstuck in their business. We help people find breakthrough, and we help leaders put the leadership and management operating systems in place so that they can step back from their business and enjoy all the things that their business should provide them in terms of lifestyle and freedom. So a very traditional way of doing a startup. The more I listen to other startup founders, everybody comes from another business. You see a problem and you jump in and you want to get in there and solve it. And that's really my journey.
All right. Now, Stuart, what are 3 keys to growth for any organization?
3 keys to growth. Well, number 1, you must be clear on the problem you're solving. And if you're not, then you'll have lost focus. So number 1, what is the problem we're solving? And that is the ultimate underlying purpose of the organization. There is no other purpose outside that organization but to solve the problem you exist to solve for your customer. It's very easy for organizations to get lost when they lose focus on their purpose, and their purpose is their problem. We exist to solve X problem for a customer, and that's number 1. Number 2, you must build people by building skills. Fundamentally, there's 2 things you must build in every organization. The first is skills, and the second is systems. So number 3, the third key to growth, is the implementation and development of systems. There's a bit of a myth sometimes out there in business world that I think exists, and that is that you must systemize everything. And I think that's actually a fallacy. You're only telling half the story. You must build people who can be supported with systems. And as we build people through skills and leadership development, and then support them with great systems and process, then they can do amazing things. So 3 keys to growth. Number 1, must be really clear on the problem you're solving. Never navigate away from that. Number 2, build people. Number 3, build the systems to support those people.
Yeah. Do you think one is more important than the other, people versus systems?
I always think people are more important than systems when it comes down to an organisation, and I think that's a philosophical answer versus a practical answer. I think we should value a system for the return it makes on a business, and we should value a human because they're human. And I think often we get that bit round the other way, and systems become more important than humans. And so that's when I think humans feel like they're cogs in a machine, whether they be a customer or an employee. And I think that's that underlying secret. Yeah, I'm a big believer that skills, which is ultimately building people, far more important than the systems, because the systems won't work if you don't have people with the skills. I always say it this way: there's no point putting in amazing systems, they're like Ferraris in your organisation, and sticking learner drivers in them. All they're going to do is crash on the first corner.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's a very good analogy. Love it. All right. Now, strategy is very important for our business, Stuart. Why do you think for some businesses strategy tends to be confusing, and how can leaders become more strategic in their decision making?
That is such a good question, Unique. I actually want to step back and really challenge this idea of strategy. And I'm a big fan of big thinkers, and one of the biggest thinkers in the world in this space is Michael Porter from Harvard, who wrote the book on it. And I love his statement that everybody in the world thinks that strategy is a set of actions. In fact, if you Google the word strategy, Google's going to tell you it's a set of actions. And that's, in a business context, that's actually wrong. That's not what strategy is. And strategy is a position that we hold in the marketplace. It's something and it's psychological first and practical second. And I think that's the big mistake we all get wrong in business. If we get the strategy right, i.e. the position we hold in the market, this is why the customer aspires to buy from us and to experience our product. If we get that right, then the practical actions fall into gear. So strategy is first and foremost a psychological moment. It's a position in the mind of the customer, in the mind of the marketplace, that we pursue or hold and defend. And then it's a set of actions to either build it, hold it, defend it, or grow it. And that's what strategy is. Strategy isn't an action plan. And we've got to get that thinking out of our heads in the business world and go, no, our strategy is to be this kind of business for this kind of customer for these reasons. That's strategy. And when that's really clear in an organization, you can be strategic at every level of the organization. A frontline customer service person can go, yeah, I get it. I know that this is who I'm meant to be because this is what the customer expects of us, the brand. Boom, great. They are now strategic. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It does, definitely. So there's a book, as you were talking about strategic thinkers, there's a book, goodness, what's the name of that book? It talks about what kind of thinker you are. I'm trying to remember if the book is actually called What Kind of Thinker Are You? Have you ever heard of that book before?
I'm going to plead ignorance and go, I'm not exactly sure, but give me some more information.
Okay, so in the book, Stuart, it talks about like strategic thinkers, bottom line thinkers, possibility thinkers. It's a really, really popular book, but he has a workbook for that book that you would do with leaders to kind of figure out their thinking style. I use it a lot sometimes, especially when I'm training leaders, because I find some people think that everybody thinks the same way. And I think in an organization, we all can be thinking strategically, right?
Well, yeah. If we put it in that context, of course, yes. Mm-hmm. Go on.
So I just wanted to know what your thoughts were on the different thinking styles. I know I can't remember the name of the book. I was gonna come to me before I finish this conversation with you, but it popped in my head just now when you said it. Actually, I'm gonna bring it up on my computer because I know I have the activity. So maybe since I can't find it on Google, if I type in the keyword,
nothing like
then it
nothing
will
like
come
a
up.
live Google. Let's bring Google into the podcast. It's great.
Yes, the book is by John Maxwell, How Successful People Think.
Oh, fantastic. I love John Maxwell. He has inspired me on so many occasions. Wonderful guy. I think to answer your question, can everybody be a strategic thinker? Well, it comes down to the context of the roles and responsibilities. But I mean, everybody thinks differently, and that's a good thing. If we're not thinking well together, then we're not working well together. And in fact, if I'm remembering rightly, one of the great things that John Maxwell says about thinking is that when we think, we connect facts and feelings, and we pursue the truth out of that process.
Yeah.
And I actually love that statement coming from John Maxwell. And I think if we just dwell on that for a moment, we can't do that as teams if we don't have a diversity of thinking styles. And I mean, that's just really obvious. If we're all thinking in the same way, in the same thoughts from the same context, and not critically challenging each other around what is the objective truth in this situation, then groupthink will set in, and groupthink is cancerous to any strategic thinking, and we've got to get that out of our organisations. And so I think absolutely we want that constructive thinking. It reminds me actually of an old CEO I had when I was in corporate life, which I've talked about on podcasts before. I was a very young guy growing up in business in the corporate world, a big urban renewal and urban development company. And the kind of work we did was very complex. We were redeveloping town centres or master plan communities and neighbourhoods. And so around the table, you had engineers and planners and finance people and social community development people and marketers and sales people and lots of different types of thinkers. Engineers are very analytical, logical, rational. Marketers are crazy, conceptual, off the wall. Community people are touchy, feely, social kind of minded. There's a catalyst of different types of thinkings in that room, and you've got to come together and you've got to agree on a plan. What's this neighbourhood going to look like? What's the urban design? What's the layout? What's the look and the feel? And I remember he embedded into that organisation this wonderful principle of working together, which he called arguing gracefully. And
I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. I've carried it with me for 20 years ever since. And the big idea he was really trying to get into the culture of the business was that when you get into that boardroom and you're a bunch of people sitting around a table, you want to fight for the best outcome. You want to create a place that's worth living in, something that's special. And to do that, you've really got to let the sparks fly. Nothing great happens without a little bit of friction. Mm-hmm. And you could either walk out of that boardroom hating each other, which is not conducive to great teamwork, or you could walk out of that boardroom after a really challenging workshop still friends and colleagues. And so he instilled this wonderful principle of culture of arguing gracefully, which meant go for it. When it comes to the debate, die in a ditch and go for it, challenge, think, bring new ideas to the table, argue your point, debate, but do it with a measure of grace, and so that you argue the point, not the person, and so that when you walk out of that room, you're still a team, and that team can execute. And that's always stuck with me, and I think that really hits on your point. People with different thinking styles, can they think strategically? Absolutely, because when we think strategically together, it requires those different thinking styles to come together and argue what matters most, to come up with the best plan, walk out of the room and still be a team and be better for the argument. And I think that's a skill lost, not just in business, but in society.
Yeah.
That's a very precious skill to hold on to and build in teams in today's world.
Agreed. Totally agree. Love it. Love that, Stuart. All right, Stuart, could you share with us what's the one online resource, tool, website, or app that you absolutely can't live without in your business?
Well, I would be wrong if I didn't mention Waymaker right now. I mean,
Shameless plug.
shameless self-promotion. Absolutely. I mean, it is a daily tool in our business because it not only helps us think strategically, but execute on a daily basis towards the goals that we're going to hit. But hey, enough of the shameless plug. Um, the other number one software or tool that I can't live without. Gosh, man, there's so many. I mean, I don't know if it's a device. I mean, I couldn't live without my iPhone and iPad. That kind of runs my world. But on top of that, I think the number one thing I just could not live without. I'm going to be really, really boring now, and I'm going to say Apple Notes because that is where everything goes. It's the most simple, practical note-taking tool, and it's not the answer you're expecting, but it's where everything goes and everything lives, and it's so practical and helpful.
Yeah, I use Apple Notes a lot too, and it has really come a far way over the years. I mean, you can literally dump anything into it, and then because the Apple ecosystem is all so integrated and connected, it doesn't matter which device you're on, you can pull up the note, wherever you are, and kind of just continue that conversation. So it really, really is
Yeah,
good.
yeah. I used to be a prolific user of Evernote, and because I don't think Apple Notes was that great when it first came out,
Very true.
and so for about 6 or 7 years, everything went into Evernote, and it got bloated. It just got too big and too complex, and I love the simplicity. So, yeah, it's one of those classic things that, I mean, my wife and I, we run our renovation at our home through it. We capture notes in my work account, with business and activities. If we go camping, we're going to put up a camping list and organize everything. We'll share stuff with friends and families and colleagues. I mean, it's just anyway, beautifully simple and powerful.
Love it. All right. Could you share with us maybe one or two books that have had the biggest impact on you? It could be a book that you read or listened to many years ago, or even one that you've engaged with recently.
Yeah. Okay. Let me give you two. I was given a book by a really good friend of mine when I first went into business, by a guy called Guy Kawasaki, called The Art of the Start. And I loved that book. I think I loved it because it was at a time in my life when I was starting something, and you've got to start it, you've got to pitch it, you've got to grow it. And so that book, I think, was just one of the best books of the last 10 or 15 years for anybody starting something. It's a great inspirational book, gives you some really good practical tools. And Guy Kawasaki is just one of those really simple, but very insightful business leaders. Have you read that?
I haven't heard of it, but I know Guy Kawasaki. But that's definitely one I'll be putting on my list to check out for sure.
Yeah. It's an oldie but a goodie.
Mm-hmm.
More recently, one of my favourites has been Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. I can never pronounce his last name correctly, which is the story of what's the pitch on it? How US Navy SEALs work together with discipline and achieve amazing results, or whatever the subline is. But it's extreme ownership is the idea of owning your team, owning your outcomes, being accountable and responsible, and leading others effectively through this discipline of extreme ownership. I've given that to almost every person in my world, and I think it's a great book.
All right, sounds awesome. Thank you for sharing. We'll have the links to those books in the show notes of this episode. So thank you so much, Stuart. Now, Stuart, could you share with us what's the one thing that's going on in your life right now that you're really excited about? Either something you're working on to develop yourself or your people.
I mean, we're a classic startup, so we're in the startup journey where we actually, what's the one thing going on that I'm super excited about for us and our people? It's the foundational steps we're taking as a business as we put in place the things that I know are going to be here for years to come. We spent about 12 to 18 months working on our product and business, doing some testing and pilot work and MVPs, and we really only launched our product 6 to 9 months ago. We're very young, and so now we're securing our first customers around the world and working with them, and seeing the company come alive. And so the most exciting thing that's happening for us right now is learning how to deliver excellence to our customers. We don't always do it perfectly, and when we don't, we want to learn and we want to know and we want to get it right. And secondly, how do we do employees? How do we develop that employee experience well, and how do we build team well? So those two things are the two really exciting things going on in our world right now: growing customers and growing team members.
All right, great. Thank you. Now, our listeners would have listened to this episode and they're quite intrigued with Waymaker.io. They're quite intrigued with your journey and just where you're heading, and they would like to connect with you. Where can they find you online?
The best place to find me is on LinkedIn. Just search Stuart Leo, Waymaker. You'll find me. You'll find Waymaker.io. Connect with me. I'm really bad at all other socials, but LinkedIn, I'm not too bad at. But I'll definitely accept your request. If you've got any questions, ask me. More than happy to chat or jump on a call and speak to you.
Okay, awesome. Now, before we wrap our episodes up, we always like to ask our guests, do you have a quote or a saying that during times of adversity or challenge you'll tend to revert to this quote? It kind of helps to get you back on track if for any reason you got derailed or you got off track.
I might give you two. Sure. The one in business is the realization, or the saying, and the saying is that the business you start is never the business you run. And I think that's a really healthy thing to remember, because businesses grow and mature and adapt and tweak, and sometimes we have an idea of the business we're building and we get frustrated sometimes because it's not what we wanted originally. But it's not what we want in a business, it's what our customers need. And so more often than not, the business we start is never the business we run. And that's a really healthy thing to remember if we're feeling frustrated or have some kind of dissonance or friction going on in the business. And we've always got to come back to, okay, what's the problem we're solving? Are we solving it effectively? Are our customers getting value from the way we're solving it? What do we have to think about changing in ourselves and in our business to make that more effective? And that's a really healthy thing to come back to. The other is one that my wife and I always say to each other, which is life is an adventure. And life is an adventure. And it's just that recognition that in an adventure, you have a lot of fun. You have a lot of challenges. You get a bit muddy, you get a bit wet. Sometimes you fall down the hillside. You get to have great campfires and look at the starry nights. And life is an adventure. It has some surprises around the corner. And I think when you kind of just step back a little bit and not try and control the world, but kind of fall in line with God's good design and order, you realize that life is a wonderful adventure and it's there to be enjoyed and worked hard in, but life is an adventure and it's a wonderful thing to be a part of.
Brilliant. I love that. All right. Wow, I really enjoyed this interview, Stuart. I could chat with you for another 30 minutes.
Yeah, me too. It's been
my goodness.
Awesome to chat with you. It's wonderful.
I really want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day that has just started to jump on this podcast and share all of these great leadership tips with us, and just basically how we can navigate and enhance the customer's experience, especially from leading from the top, because I'm a big believer that customer experience starts from within, and it's driven heavily not just by the people but also by the leadership. So your knowledge that you shared with us today definitely helped to reinforce those concepts, and we're truly grateful for you taking the time to share that with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to be with you.
All right, just want to remind our listeners to follow us on Twitter at NavigatingCX, and you can feel free to join our private Facebook group, Navigating the Customer Experience Community. And I'm your host, Yannick Grant. Until next time, be safe. We also have a new book available on Amazon, The ABCs of a Fantastic Customer Experience. It's available in ebook and paperback. So if you want to increase revenue in your organization, build a stronger service culture, and create employees or develop employees who are really mastering service delivery in your business, you need to grab a copy of this book. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.